Story 1. I am built to maximize vitamin D intake and skin cancer. It is a mixed bag. Story 2. I am pale olive. I always look sick. There are only about 3 shades of foundation in the world that are acceptable. Not perfect though, so I feel like a witch when I mix foundation and eyeshadow to match my skin. I am very pale in winter and brown in summer. People sometimes do not recognize me and ask how my vacation was. I did not go on vacation. I could not afford it. I just walked on a sunny day and I turned brown. But I never get sunburned. That is a positive. Story 3. With a bit of sun, it turns golden and I get a lot of compliments. It's nice to have some positives rather than negatives about my color and ethnicity. Story 4. I like my skin color. If we could change it, it would be fun to be cobalt blue or purple. Story 5. I don't like it. I am very pale with red undertones. I don't care, but people comment on it a lot, which annoys me. Story 6. As an African American, I like it. It is a medium to dark brown tone. It makes my skin very smooth, moisturized, and healthy. Story 7. I think I look like a Twilight vampire without the glitter effect. Story 8. I like my pale, pearly pink complexion. As someone upthread said, it is optimized for vitamin D production and for skin cancer risk. Story 9. I never give it any thought, which probably says a lot about it. I love the solution in the Lathe of Heaven to one of his thoughts, when we find out how much easier things might be if everyone were simply gray. Story 10. As a Caucasian artist who has spent a lot of time mixing flesh tones, I think the color of white skin is unusual, kind of pink and semi-translucent in places. Skin color varies depending on what it covers and how much blood supply it receives, and Caucasian skin covers a wide range. As for how I feel about it, it matters to people more than most will admit, and I wish it did not. The older I get, the less I care, and I am glad. Story 11. I like my complexion. I was once called Chocolate King, so I guess that is something. Story 12. It's mostly covered with high-end, custom, full-color tattoos. It's fucking awesome. Overall, my skin is healthy and beautiful. Story 13. I love my skin. To be content and happy with what you have, you must accept it. Story 14. I'm olive and I love it. Apparently, it looks less aged than lighter skin colors. It is considered quite attractive where I live in London. I think that has something to do with how easy it is for me to dance salsa. Story 15. This shade of butterscotch with a pump of toffee suits my personality to a T. Story 16. I'm white. Not the nice porcelain kind with clear skin, just a bland white. A little tan helps, but overall I don't love it. Story 17. White as fuck. 5 minutes in the sun and it's an automatic burn. Why? Story 18. I am not sure this helps anyone, so I removed it. Story 19. I'm brown, but I don't like having my face in the sun too much, so I'm like a cupcake with white frosting. Story 20. Since I did not choose my skin color, it does not really matter to me. I am neither proud nor ashamed of it because it is not a major part of my identity. I place much more importance on what I have done in my life because I feel that is what defines me. Story 21. I like being brown. I have always liked my skin color. I have been insulted for it by some people, but that only makes me appreciate being brown even more. As Bangladeshis, we are tropical people. I never have to wear sunscreen. Some people look down on their own race and try to marry into another because of an inferiority complex. Then they project that onto darker-skinned people like me and insult us. I have no respect for people like that. If you have racial trauma, I can understand, but for you to impose that on others is completely pathetic. Keep your self-hatred to yourself. Do not make it my problem. Story 22. I get sunburn through my shirt and second-degree burns if I am outside for more than an hour on some days. Story 23. It is my skin color. I do not think about it much, except on the rare occasions I wear makeup. Those occasions are so infrequent that I have to buy new products because the old ones have expired and I need to color match. For example, the last time I wore makeup was June 2019. Story 24. I hate it. I am very pale with red splotches and undertones. I burn easily in the sun. My skin is never evenly toned or a single color, and it shows every imperfection. Story 25. My primary feeling about it is frustration. I have two settings: blinding white and painful lobster red. There is no in-between. I cannot be in direct sunlight for more than about 15 minutes without bursting into flames. I spend a small fortune on sunscreen with a sun protection factor of 50. I would love to have that healthy, sun-kissed glow people talk about, but I have accepted that my future is in the shade under a very large hat. Story 26. Honestly, I love it. I have not always, because it marked me as different from most of the other kids I grew up with. Now I tan so easily, and it contrasts really well with my favorite clothing colors, so I am enjoying it. Story 27. Not going to lie, mine isn't bad. I am white but weirdly pink. I'm not a redhead. I'm a dirty blonde. Other white people have said I look pink. Story 28. As a feminine presenting person my whole life, I find it pretty frustrating. I have a light to light medium, neutral to olive skin tone. Foundation is never the right color. Olive eyeshadows often blend into my skin or make me look off. Reds with warm undertones also look odd. I dye my hair bright colors often, and most shades look good on me because my skin leans neutral. That can be nice, but it can also be frustrating because so many colors suit me, so choosing is difficult. I am spoiled for choice. Story 29. I'd prefer an option to become any color between whiter than a polar bear and tomato, because those are the only two settings I have right now. Story 30. I am pale as a vampire and would not have it any other way. How else would the Spanish know I am on vacation? Story 31. The pores and follicles on my body are visible as colored dots. I would like more pigmentation, please. Story 32. I am very pale and have many freckles that look like constellations, which I love. Story 33. I love my pale to medium complexion. The skin on my body is pale honey-colored. I like that I am not fishbelly white like many white people. Story 34. Normal white guy here. I tan fairly easily but do not become very dark. Story 35. I get a bit pale in the winter, but I develop a very dark tan in the summer. It is pretty nice. Story 36. I like it. I often think that if I were a few shades lighter, I would receive more positive interactions from people. I like looking like a caramel frappe in all seasons. Story 37. The color of my skin causes people to minimize my problems, which hurts my feelings. Otherwise, my skin produces excess tissue, and I shed it occasionally, which I find interesting. Story 38. I am a white woman with rosacea on my face, so I am not very fond of it. Story 39. I love my tan skin. I had fair skin when I was a child. In my country, white skin signifies that you are considered pretty. But as I grew up, I absolutely hated looking pale, laughing out loud. Eventually, I became very tanned because of the outdoor activities I do. Story 40. I am white. My wife is Colombian. She actually calls me quesito because my skin reminds her of cheese. In Colombia, cheese is white, not yellow. I call her caramelcita because her skin is the color of caramel. What is funny is that early in our courtship, I did not speak Spanish well and she spoke almost no English. We were driving to our second date when she said, "Tu piel es el color de queso." I thought, queso? My skin is the color of cheese? She thinks it is hilarious, and now she teases me more and says I am not white but more a shade of pink. She is very racist. Not really. It is fun to tease her that way. She is fond of saying, "No soy racista, estoy diciendo la verdad." Why, or, "I am not racist, I am telling you the truth, and that is it." Marry a Colombian. Your life will be fun whether you like it or not. Story 41. My skin is very pale. You can see right through it. I was made fun of for it in high school and still get a few offhand comments now and then. Took me a while to embrace it, but I mostly do now. People give me an odd look when I say I actively avoid tanning. For one thing, it is not good for my health and I also like the way I look. I only wish my veins were not so visible. Story 42. I am white and that is okay. When I get sunburned, my skin turns red, which is painful. Story 43. I am Asian, so some people call my skin color yellow. Once a friend asked why I turned orange instead of red. That was pretty funny because I really did look orange at that moment. Story 44. Pale white skin with freckles. I do not tan evenly. My skin shows every wrinkle and every bad decision. I have many scars that appear red and blotchy, and blue veins show through. I look 10 years older than I am, and I have never been a drinker or a drug user. I am 49 and my boyfriend is 43. People have mistaken me for his mother several times. I often wish I had a darker skin tone to even out my complexion. My face also becomes red and blotchy at the slightest provocation, even from the wind. Story 45. I'm the fun kind of pale that burns but will also get tan. I've always had weird tan lines, and my shoulders are slowly turning into one giant freckle, but I've never wanted to drastically change my appearance. Story 46. I have always loved being pale, and I am glad I had the common sense to use sunscreen even as a child. Story 47. My skin color is completely neutral. I feel upset that my pale skin is very thin and therefore ages easily, and I wish it had the resilience of darker tones. Story 48. I'm sure of it. I wouldn't mind if it were a bit darker or tanned. Story 49. I'm kind of sad, to be honest. When I was a kid, I had such a lovely tan. My skin was strong and never burned even after spending all day in the sun. I guess the pollution in my birth country was good for something, or maybe we did not have a giant hole in the ozone layer above us. I had cute little freckles and my brown hair turned caramel in the sun. Everyone would comment on my rosy cheeks. In the past few years, it has changed. I have been seriously struggling with my health, and getting outside is a challenge. Some of my medications make me burn very easily, so I am pale as a ghost and I hate it. Under hospital lights you can see every vein. Every bruise seems to stay forever, and I look like a sickly Victorian child. I do not get my rosy cheeks anymore. I miss my old coloring. This is not meant as a criticism of pale skin. It is just how I feel about the change in my own skin. Story 50. I honestly like looking like a brown patchwork quilt. I have very mottled skin and reverse freckles. Sometimes I lie in the sun to get darker. I will say, though, that the difference between how I am treated when people can see my skin color and when they cannot is night and day. I am a casual Kigurumi Temu fursuit light, and I get more smiles. People are more open, and I see more warmth in their eyes when they cannot tell that I am black underneath the getup. It is a bit of a shame that people want to connect with me more, and I feel more warmth when I look like a literal toy animal than when I look like myself. Story 51. I am a washed-out mix of pink, yellow, gold, and gray. I may need lotion, but I do not care enough to do it. I always look drawn and sick. I have frizzy dark blonde to light brown hair, mousy brown as some have called it, and I could double as a Day of the Dead decoration. Story 52. My skin is very pale. I was built for living in the dark. The sun burns me even through clothing. I avoid going outside in summer unless it is necessary. As a child, people thought I was wearing white tights at school, but those were just my legs. Story 53. I am half Greek, so I have olive skin. I always look healthy, even in winter. I have never been sunburned. I like my skin color. Story 54. I'm fair, and I hate it. Red hair. When I see it on other people, I think it looks bad. I want it to be tan or mixed my whole life. I love the look of darker skin. It does not show veins, blemishes, or freckles as easily. I was teased relentlessly as a child and teenager, so fake freckles make me a little angry. Story 55. I'm mixed race and I hate myself for it, even though it isn't my fault. Story 56. I would be envied if I were living in the 1700s. I might as well be translucent. Story 57. My skin looks like piglets from Winnie the Pooh, so I call myself and my people Pigletian. Story 58. I am confused by it, but I have learned to embrace it. No complaints. I am mostly white, though sometimes people notice a little zest in my other features. I am mostly pale with a slight warm yellow undertone. I would not call it olive, though I am not sure. I tan easily. I was very pale in high school, which made me self-conscious. I find self-tanner annoying and do not feel compelled to use it unless it is a formal event. I am lucky in this world, but I have a deep understanding of racism that people could never know by looking at me, and that is both internally confusing and sometimes frustrating. Story 59. I find it funny that, like a werewolf under a full moon, I periodically change into a Minion or a Simpsons character. This is Gilbert syndrome. Story 60. I'm not fond of it because I'm so pale. I also don't tan because I don't want wrinkles, so I'll live with being Casper. Story 61. Highly variable. I have never bought foundation because of it. Story 62. To be honest, while I am white enough, if I need to flee the country, I can find a way to look Hispanic with enough sun. But I do not want to. Story 63. I am fine with my skin color. It is other people who have a problem. I am quite Mediterranean in appearance and have often been mistaken when abroad. I did a deoxyribonucleic acid test partly to find out where my coloring came from, and there was nothing unusual. I am 83% English, 12% Scottish, and the rest from Scandinavia and northern France. Turns out I am just a swarthy Englishman. Story 64. I love my color, like a mocha latte or good caramel. It's pretty, and I look fantastic in red. People say black don't crack, and I have never looked my age and never will. Brown and black skin is beautiful. Story 65. I am pretty heavily tattooed. I love my multicolored skin. I am laughing out loud. Story 66. It's one of the few things about myself that I don't scrutinize. I am light medium with neutral undertones. I can wear most colors just fine. Shades only matter depending on the time of year, when I am either on the darker or lighter side. Story 67. I am white and have pale skin. I used to be self-conscious as a young teen because all the girls tanned and that was in style. My family warned me not to. They said I would get skin cancer. I'm glad I listened. I took care of my skin and used sunscreen. People who tan often do not age well and face a higher risk of skin cancer. I remember a friend with black skin. I was amazed at how soft her skin was and asked why. She said it was melanin. I jokingly asked where I could get that, and she said it comes with being black. It's funny to look back on childhood and how we learned about skin color. I also learned that people with less melanin tend to show aging more quickly, so I started using facial moisturizer and sunscreen every day. Story 68. I never really think about it, which is a great thing, I suppose. Story 69. I am very happy and like the color I am, medium with neutral undertones and not problematic. Story 70. When I was little, I hated my pale skin and freckles, but as I have gotten older, I have learned to embrace them. Story 71. I have an olive complexion and am grateful to my Portuguese father for it. I tan easily and rarely burn. Story 72. I love it. It is milk chocolate with warm undertones. My skin looks kind of glowy in the sun. I can wear any color I want. You will not find me complaining about it. Story 73. I'm a chocolate queen who used to wish I were lighter. Of all my siblings, I'm the darkest hue. There is a wide range because of my parents' skin tones. I favor my dad. A couple of siblings favor my mom, and everyone else is in between. Girls with lighter skin were always preferred, and I was angry with God for not making me like my sisters. Now I love my skin. I have actually used self-tanner to make my complexion darker and more consistent, like Lupita Nyong'o. I wish my skin were a single shade instead of various hues, but my color is gorgeous no matter how you slice it. Story 74. I am a caramel-toned black man, not necessarily light-skinned most of the time, but not dark-skinned either. I am a lighter shade of brown, hard to explain. If I stay out in the sun, I become brown-skinned. Overall, it is frustrating because many times, regardless of the other person's skin color, I am assumed to be a liar, a thief, or a troublemaker. Oddly enough, I have never had this issue with the police, although I have seen it firsthand. The police in my area are rough and dirty. The good side is that I am still beautiful and have a unique hair texture. Story 75. I like it, but other people do not. I'm regularly advised to tan or use fake tan because people say I'm too pale. Fuck every one of you jealous haters. Story 76. I wish I had an afro and beautiful dark skin. Instead, I'm white and my skin turns pink, red, and blotchy. Story 77. With immigration and customs enforcement running crazy, I'm not a fan of my dark Mexican skin. Story 78. I am not American white, but my skin is very pale. It is annoying. I cannot tolerate the sun. I get sunburned after only a few minutes outside. People often show preferential treatment toward white people, so that can be nice. I would really like to be able to stay in the sun without having to use so much sunscreen. Story 79. I like it, but it is not without connotations. In India, perceived attractiveness is often linked to skin color. As a fair-skinned Indian man, I grew up in an environment where I was not allowed to spend long in the sun. Whenever I got a tan, I had to go through a detanning process that involved applying mixtures like yogurt, lemon juice, and other ingredients I cannot remember. I always found it cumbersome and pointless. When I dated someone with a duskier skin tone and brought them home, my grandparents, when visiting, would point it out immediately despite my repeated requests to stop. These days I avoid getting a tan or staying in the sun for long because I run very hot and my skin has become sensitive and prone to sunburn. Story 80. I'm not big on outdoor activities, so I'm as white as Casper. The upside of this is that I look at least a decade younger than I really am. Story 81. It is my favorite part of myself, especially when I am fully moisturized. Story 82. It's fine. I'm dark enough that it's very hard for me to get sunburned in sunlight, and my skin is slightly warm-toned while my hair is cool-toned. So I look good in almost any shade or color except pastels. I dislike pastels anyway, so it's no loss. Story 83. As a Southeast Asian, I am fine with my lightness, but I wish my natural hue were more yellow than red. Sometimes on a cold day I do turn yellow. Story 84. It's pretty good. I tan easily, and my son inherited that from me. We rarely get sunburned. Story 85. I have pale skin with cool undertones and am happy with it. The only issue is that my fairly dark brown eyes limit my hair dye options. I think blonde or red hair wouldn't suit me. Story 86. I am pasty pink-white with cool undertones. I wear silver jewelry. Gold and warm colors do not work on me. My skin tone looks lovely when I am wearing a full face of makeup and fully dressed, but when naked my coloring does not feel attractive. I am nearly see-through and sometimes seem to glow in the dark. I avoid the sun to prevent premature aging, so my veins and hair follicle openings are visible. I would much rather be naturally darker, but this is how I look. Story 87. I'm not a big fan. My mixed heritage gave me green undertones and red overtones, which make my skin look splotchy and sickly. Meanwhile, everyone else in my family has a single tone, either deep olive or very pink. Story 88. I hate it. I am covered in freckles from head to toe, and my skin ranges from fishbelly white to red like Alabama clay depending on sun exposure. Story 89. I am so pale that I get lost in snowstorms. I dislike it. In fact, I dislike everything about myself, so that makes sense. Story 90. I love my skin color. The gold, the olive, and all the wonderful tones it has. I think I look beautiful. Story 91. I hate it. I'm Asian and have fairly light skin. My sister has darker skin, and I'm jealous of her. Story 92. I am unmoved by it. Actually, I wish I were darker or more tanned. Story 93. Love it. Golden undertones with olive skin. I barely have hair. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Laughing out loud. Story 94. It stains and burns easily, never tans, and predisposes me to skin cancer. It is not the color I wanted, but I learned to be satisfied with it. Story 95. I could use less of a yellow tone. I can't wear cool tone pinks or purples. They make me look sickly. Story 96. I have a well-balanced color that goes well with many others. Story 97. Yes, everyone, we can finally say it. I am proud to be white. Laughing out loud. Honestly, it makes no difference. Story 98. I'm white, but not olive-skinned white. It's more pink, so I get red and sweaty. I'm not really a fan. Story 99. As someone who wants to learn to paint, I focus on the multiple hues I see. The pinks, the yellow, and the blue of my veins and my freckles. It's a roadmap of my life. Story 100. You need a tan. Everyone says it to me when they see my pasty white, vampire-like skin tone. I am of Scottish, English, and Irish descent on my mother's side. Her genetics somehow won out over my dad's Southern Italian ones. I personally love my skin tone. I look like a doll. Story 101. I have a yellowish shade. Sometimes I look golden. Other times I look like The Simpsons. Story 102. I would like to be a bit darker, but I do not think it would look good on me, which is strange because I am mixed. Story 103. My whole ancestral line is a European cocktail. I am really pale. My veins are bright blue. It is cool and makes me feel pretty. Sunburns are a bitch. 9.5 out of 10. Story 104. I never really gave it any thought. I darken easily. During the summer, a walk to the mailbox is enough to give me a tan. Story 105. I like my skin color, but I wish it were even all over my body. Different parts of my body are different colors. Story 106. I am only 1/8 Irish on my mother's side, but I have very little color. Luckily, I have hazel eyes, or I would have been screwed. Story 107. It's rather unremarkable, although a bit olive. I don't mind it, but it could be nicer. Story 108. I would like it to be more consistent instead of having blotchy pale and dark areas scattered across my body. Story 109. I do not really think about it. I guess it is fine because law enforcement does not hassle people for that color. Story 110. I don't know. I have an uneven farmer's tan from Louder Than Life right now. I wish it were even. Story 111. I am white like a tree frog. You can see all the veins. The downside is how many people have a pale skin fetish. Story 112. It would be nice to keep at least a light tan. I am very pale and I either freckle or burn. Story 113. I generally feel indifferent, but I recognize that's a very privileged take as a white Canadian. Too much red, though. I feel like a tomato or cherry when I wear warm colors. Story 114. I love my skin tone. I always have. Even as a kid, I liked being the color of freshly baked bread. I also like getting darker in the summer. Story 115. I'm Mexican American. I have a light beige skin tone that tans and does not burn. My daughter has the same skin tone. We tan. The color fades and we return to our natural skin tone. Story 116. I love how pale I am. I reflect the sun like a motherfucking high beam. I'm beautiful. Story 117. I love it. I used to dislike it when I was younger, but it is just internalized racism. Story 118. I have a beautiful brown complexion but am very translucent. My blue veins are easily visible and prominent. During the winter months, I lose most of my color and look sickly. I live with it, but it makes applying makeup a headache. Story 119. My skin is gorgeous. I was raised to hate it, but now I love it even more. Story 120. I'm pretty pale in the winter and nicely tan in the summer. I don't know, man. It's just my skin. Story 121. I don't have much against it, but I wish it didn't come with dark elbows and knees and uneven skin tone. Story 122. It's very uneven. Some areas are red while others are pale white. I wish it were more even. I'd love to be pale white all the time. The red isn't very fun. Story 123. I am German and Scottish but somehow do fine in the sun. Laughing out loud. I will burn if I am out for too long, but I am careful about sunscreen. These days it is a sad convenience not to have to worry about being harassed on the street for it. Sigh. Story 124. I am happy with it. I have Swedish, German, French, Turkish, and Spanish ancestry, which explains my affinity for the Spanish language. I am white without being pasty. I tan nicely, although the tan fades after a few weeks. Story 125. I am paler than a motherfucker. I would not necessarily change it, but I do not particularly like it. Story 126. I am the most yellow-skinned person I have known. My mother was very fair-skinned, and my father was light brown. I do not know why my skin is yellow. When I was younger, I received rude flack about it, and it was impossible to find foundation for my skin tone. Now there is foundation for every skin tone, which is a fantastic development. Story 127. At a restaurant, I was once asked to sit in the shade because I was blinding the other guests. Otherwise, I am pretty happy. Story 128. I have learned not to stress about what I cannot change. Edited because of fingers. Story 129. It is okay, I suppose. If I spend time in the sun, I tan very well because I am part Latina. The problem is I hate the sun. You could say I have an olive tone. Story 130. At this moment I am too pale. I should be darker, but I avoided being outside too long this summer because of heat intolerance. It is all right, but not as dark as it would be. Story 131. I'm mostly Caucasian, which brings its own skincare and sun exposure issues. I have fair skin and, despite my best efforts, burn easily. When I do tan, it often looks more red than brown because of my other heritage. I also dislike how easily skin problems such as dryness or eczema show and how hard they are to hide. Story 132. I'm jealous of Italian skin because I can wear sunscreen with sun protection factor 100 and a sun protective shirt, sit under an umbrella, and still get sunburned. Summer is terrible. I'm like a reverse bear. I hide from the sun until it's gone. It's depressing. Story 133. I love my skin color. It is so pretty. I would not change it for anything. I am like topaz in summer. Story 134. I don't like my face looking blotchy or having moles on my body. I also flush easily for several reasons, and the redness is very noticeable. Story 135. I am half white, half Latina, and currently quite pale, but I love my skin color. Story 136. Many people in my family are golden brown. I have very pale skin due to a genetic fluke. I was so white that my teachers nicknamed me Casper. I do not like burning in the sun, even in winter. My skin is always dry and damaged. I would love a little sun-kissed color in the summer. Story 137. These are the words of Andrew Schultz. I have the complexion of an iPhone flashlight. The good news is, unlike others, I tan really well. Story 138. I wish I did not have rosacea and I miss all the freckles I had as a kid. Otherwise, it is okay. Story 139. I was born brown with white blonde hair. People have, for over 50 years, told me how great my tan is. Thank you, but I do not sunbathe. I wear very strong sunscreen. This is simply the color of my skin. I am very fond of it. It keeps me young. Story 140. I am the epitome of a ginger, very pale and covered in freckles of all shapes, sizes, and colors. I hate it because cosplay always looks off. I cannot use foundation because my face becomes clear of freckles while every inch of my body is covered with brown splotches. It also draws unwanted attention and causes painful sunburns. Story 141. Scandinavian pale skin that will never tan, waiting for skin cancer to develop. Story 142. Ultra-white person in Australia? Yes. Nature wouldn't have put me here. My skin should be darker for sun protection. I am raising my children to be better suited to the climate, though. Story 143. I am red, and I like it. I blush and sunburn easily. I have very sensitive skin, so it can become red from almost anything. I do not know why I like it. Story 144. I am astonished that, as a white man, my skin is the same color as some walnut-colored tabletops in my classroom. Story 145. There are pros and cons, but mostly I worry about sunburns and eventual skin cancer. Story 146. I am white and enjoy my privilege. I am fine with it. All skin colors are beautiful. Story 147. I sometimes wish I were darker, but I do love being my caramel self. Story 148. I'm comfortable being black until my race is brought up and I'm lumped in with other black people who perpetuate negative stereotypes, or my identity is reduced to not being black enough because people say my personality isn't like that of a typical black person. Story 149. As a child, my skin was milky white. Now it is a bit darker, but I wish it were the same. I have dark hair and I love the contrast of dark hair with light skin. Story 150. I love it, even though the rest of society tries to make me hate it while copying it. Story 151. It is okay. That is better than being transparent, since I do not really want anyone watching what my stomach is doing all the time. Story 152. Fair skin with many freckles. Story 153. I love having an olive golden brown skin tone. I remember people calling it a sun-kissed tan, and to be honest, that's what it feels like. Story 154. I wish I were paler. People have always considered me strange, and very pale skin would suit me even better. Story 155. I have a Caucasian peach complexion. I tan okay compared to my much paler siblings. If I could change my skin color, I would make it a few shades more bronze. Sunlight on bronze skin looks really nice. Story 156. My skin color is moderately pale, not the lightest. I have freckles and red spots that look messy. I do not really like it, but I do not hate it. Story 157. I am nearly translucent and envious of people with more melanin and their beautiful brown skin. However, I know my skin takes tattoos well with almost any ink color. Story 158. I grew up in the 1990s when tanning was everything, and being so pale that I looked transparent was a major reason I was bullied. Everyone tried to get a tan by any means, including spray tans. It gave me a lifelong complex about being too pale, but it matters absolutely nothing in my adult circles, which is wonderful. Story 159. It's pretty great, I guess. It ranges from a tanned butterscotch to slightly pasty. Story 160. I like it, but I wish it were easier to find a foundation color that matches. Story 161. A bit of a tan is nice, but I burn fairly easily, so I cover up a lot. I'm white and can tan, but it all fades by autumn. It's currently early summer, and I absolutely love the heat. Story 162. I could use more melanin. My untanned skin matches the underside of a freshwater fish. Story 163. My skin looks like raw chicken. I have never had pretty skin. Story 164. In the past, I would have wished I were as dark as my sister so I would not be white passing, but gradually I have come to accept it. Most of the time it bothers me that I am more likely to go olive in summer. The tan line, or at least the subtle contrast left when my hair fringe or bangs are cut, makes my forehead and brow area seem heavier, which I do not like. It affects me differently than the tan lines on my limbs when I am in my underwear or shirtless. Story 165. I do not have a problem with it. I am East Asian but have always been pale, so no one has given me trouble for being too dark. There is a lot of colorism in the Asian community. When I was a teenager, I used darker foundation shades or self-tanner to make my skin darker. In the 2000s, the tan look was popular, but it looked fake and terrible on me. I remember some of the makeup rubbing off and exposing my real skin, and it was almost like I was wearing blackface. Story 166. It's weird. I used to tan so much more easily, and now I'm a bit paler. Story 167. I'm too pale to be pasty, partly ginger, with blonde hair that washes me out. I love my freckles, but I wish the sun didn't turn me into a lobster and I could hold more melanin. Story 168. I would not mind going a bit darker just for a while. For me, though, tanning is not a possibility. Story 169. With some sun, it's amazing. In winter, I look like I'm supposed to be a browner color, but I lack sun. Story 170. I am so pale. I wish I had a bit more protection from the sun. Living in Australia, I cannot go outside for more than 5 minutes without sunscreen or I will burn. Story 171. I'm happy with it in summer when I have a tan. I hate how pale I end up by March. Story 172. I am white but too tan, if that makes sense. I do not like being tan. Story 173. I'm pretty okay. Likes and dislikes are options, but skin color is not. I'm fine with what I have. Story 174. I have fair skin and can tolerate a fair amount of sun. So I am happy that I do not burn easily, especially since I work outdoors in Australia. Story 175. I'm Caucasian as far as I know, but my skin is naturally darker, so most people think I'm Native American, Romanian, Egyptian, or of similar ethnicities. I'm in a strange position where people regularly make racist comments toward me while my white privilege is also apparent. I like being different, but sometimes I wish I looked white because I feel fake, like a poser. I'm not light enough to use makeup and products made for white women, but I'm also not able to use most products marketed for darker-skinned people because that could be seen as insensitive or as cultural appropriation, and I would feel like a horrible person. I just feel like I don't belong anywhere. Story 176. Sung to the tune of I'm a Little Teapot. I'm a little weirdo, short and stout. A quarter Irish, a quarter Scottish, lacking height. Got all the pale recessive genes, no control over my means. My darker mother and siblings stand really tall. I, very light, get jealousy from them all. When I beg for something from a tall cupboard, they hand me a ladder and watch me fall. I could go on with rhyming, but as the palest person currently alive in my family, most of the rest of my family are supporters of the Make America Great Again movement and bigots. I trust the naturally darker-skinned security guards in my building more than my overtanned white relatives. Earlier this year, I was written up for taking a Sharpie marker to the bumper stickers of a former security guard who supported the Make America Great Again movement and is no longer employed here. That guard reacted as if I had done serious, irreparable damage to his car. As a veteran, I was offended by an extremely overweight, white, racist young security officer who clearly never served displaying military stickers on his car. I had a bit too much to drink one night and scribbled on his bumper stickers. I fully admit I did wrong, but how much does it cost to replace a few already peeling bumper stickers? My building management wrote me up. That same guard, about whom I had filed complaints for comments he had made about non-white and obviously mentally disabled residents, had been ignored by management. I was happy to take the hit. Months later, I bumped into my nice black neighbor, and he was there when that security guard reported thousands of dollars worth of damage to management, claiming his car was undrivable from a couple of scribbled bumper stickers. My neighbor recognized my description, asked me months later what I actually did, and laughed. He also swore I could tell him anything and he would keep it secret. So I told him, I scribbled on a Make America Great Again supporters military and other bumper stickers because they personally offended me as a veteran who swore an oath to the Constitution, not some draft-dodging wannabe dictator. That pansy-ass insecure guard could never. Story 177. I'm pale but olive. It's strange that I can tan easily. Now that I'm more cautious about tanning, I look like I would burn if I didn't tan. Laughing out loud. Story 178. I like my skin tone. It is a light olive color. I do not sunburn or freckle, and I can tan deeply with very minimal sun exposure. I have a little bit of color even in winter. Story 179. I was not getting dates before, but with vitiligo I am definitely not getting them now. Story 180. My skin is quite red, especially on my face. It is not attractive and I do not like it. I married a man with brown skin and hoped our children would have beautiful brown skin, but they did not. For some reason, my daughter is lighter skinned than I am. Story 181. I'm kind of pale and ruddy, and I tend to flush more easily than I would like. I also have back and shoulder freckles common among white people that make me look a bit like a tortilla. So, I'm not crazy about my skin color, but what can I do? Story 182. I love it. I'm brown, but not in any shade you could specifically assign to a country. My last boss thought I was Hawaiian, and I've had people guess I'm South American or Indian. It lets me go just about anywhere without sticking out too much or facing much prejudice. Story 183. I am sickly pale in the winter. People ask me if I'm feeling okay. I do tan nicely in the summer, though. I have a light olive tone. Story 184. I like it. I grew up around people who tried to make me dislike it and call it ugly, but I still like it. Story 185. I do not really think about it because I have white privilege. Story 186. I'm pale, but not in the flattering way associated with Scandinavians. My skin looks like raw chicken skin. If I tan, I'm red for a couple of days and then go back to being pale. I'm used to it, but it's nothing special. Story 187. I am perplexed that I am considered white when my skin is hazelnut brown. The parts that never get sunlight are pale, but my skin is much darker than many of my Asian friends and about the same color as my cousin whose father is black. Do I like my skin color? I do not dislike it. It is fine. Story 188. It's excellent when I get even sun exposure on my body, but a farmer's tan is usually a reality and an annoying one. I don't usually need to moisturize because I have naturally oily skin, but not so oily that I get acne. My skin turns a faint red in summer with or without sunscreen, and I very rarely get sunburned. Overall, I am very happy with my skin. I like the contrast of my blonde arm hair against my tanned arms in summer. Story 189. I wish it were darker. Not for aesthetic reasons, but so I could be exposed to the sun for more than about 30 seconds without burning. Story 190. I used to hate it. Now I do not care for the most part. Sometimes I wish it were a little different, but there is no point in putting energy into that. Story 191. It is annoying that all of the vibrant or pastel colors I would want in a tattoo would not work on my skin. Story 192. I am very pale, almost translucent, and burn easily. I also turn red easily and am self-conscious about it. Story 193. Learning to love the white and brown patches on my skin. I was diagnosed with vitiligo 3 years ago, and I am still taking time to accept it. Story 194. I took a 23andMe test once, and it attempted to predict my skin tone. Of course it is probability-based, and apparently I should be a lot darker than I am, but I turned out very pale. I do not feel any particular way about my skin tone, other than mild curiosity about why I ended up the color that I am. It is a bit more difficult to find makeup with the right undertone that does not turn me into an Oompa Loompa or make me look jaundiced. Story 195. Let us just say I have come to terms with it. Fairly pale with red undertones. Story 196. Well, the translucency makes it easier to have blood drawn and intravenous lines placed. I get sunburned and peel, so I wear sun protection factor 50 or higher and t-shirts at the beach. Everyone knows when I am embarrassed, upset, or hot because I turn red. It is unfortunate that I am more likely to develop skin cancer. Story 197. I am a typical white American man. I wish my skin pigment were darker for both health and appearance reasons. Story 198. I like my skin color. I am pale with freckles on my arms and face, and I can get a good tan after some sun. The acne is an issue, though. Story 199. I have a reddish-brown shade instead of the yellow hue many of my siblings have, which makes me feel unique. Story 200. I don't think about it much, to be honest. I just forget because I don't go outside. Story 201. I love my skin color. It's frustrating how easily I burn and that I never tan. Sometimes my veins are very visible, like an anatomical model in a classroom, but the sun I get brings out many freckles that balance the paleness. I don't know. I feel the ivory with pink undertones suits me. Story 202. I have learned to find my skin beautiful after many years of not wanting to be so fair-skinned, including frequent use of tanning beds and a diagnosis of skin cancer. Story 203. I am very pale, almost translucent. I do not mind it and have never gone out of my way to get a tan. I lead a pretty active lifestyle, but people do not understand. I simply do not tan. I burn, my skin peels, and I end up pale again. People tell me to go outside, but I work with horses. Story 204. Well, as a ginger who has to wear chapstick with sun protection factor, I would have preferred to be darker and not have to go to the dermatologist every 6 months. Story 205. To be honest, it has been a tough journey. Growing up, I was constantly told I was not pretty because my skin was not fair enough. Then, as an adult, I see people spending money to tan and obtain the exact skin tone I was shamed for. It is a strange full-circle feeling to be judged for something that others now try to imitate. Story 206. I love it. I tan easily, but my natural skin tone is not very light. Story 207. I used to be very tan as a kid because I spent so much time outside. Now I am pasty and wish I were tanner, but not enough to actually go outside. Story 208. It is very reddish pink. I wish it were more yellow or balanced, maybe slightly more tan. Story 209. I would like a little more Mediterranean color in my skin, since my Scottish ancestry makes me a bit paler than I would like. Story 210. I am a brown South Asian girl. Growing up, I was made to believe light skin was more beautiful than brown or darker skin. But living in Southern California and watching white girls try to tan their skin as dark as possible, I realized my brown skin is fine as it is, and trying to lighten it would not make me more beautiful. I began focusing on skincare and drinking more water, which enhanced my skin's glow. Dark skin is beautiful when taken care of properly. Story 211. I have no issues with it. My complexion allows me to look good in most colors. I do okay in the sun. I do not burn and I tan well, although I avoid sun exposure as much as possible because I do not want to risk cancer. Story 212. I do not like myself. I often feel I would be more attractive if I had a tan and that I could never be as attractive as someone with a tan. I also feel like I look dead most of the time. 27-year-old female. Story 213. I like it, but I wish I did not get so ruddy in the cold and heat. Story 214. I am the epitome of a person of color. I am a mixed-race person of many generations, and it is possible that I am a chimera because my skin does not match. My family members are all different shades, mostly lighter than I am. I have the darkest face in my family, but my body is lighter up to a point, then becomes darker again with an abrupt line, though not as dark as my face. I have not gone to a swimming pool shirtless in a long time, but when I did, people always commented on how many colors I had and the unusual patterns on my back and stomach. There is a good chance I absorbed another sibling or merged with one. I wish my body would pick one color. Story 215. I am Caucasian. Not Snow White, just a white man. Maybe a little swarthy, but nothing extreme. Apparently, though, I am being called Satan and a Nazi. Note to moderators. This is a joke aimed at people who seem to dislike me because I am white and male. There are many such people. Story 216. I'm comfortable in my own skin, but I wish I could handle the sun better. I'm easily the palest person I know and I can't tan. My skin is either pasty white, pink, or red. I also have sensitivity to ultraviolet rays on my chest and back, so I can't even try to get sun there anymore. I love the beach and the pool, but you'll always see me wearing a rash guard, which I hope will help prevent skin cancer. Story 217. I am dark brown skinned and I totally forgot about it until I saw this subreddit. Sorry, skin. Story 218. I'm neutral about it. I don't have much to say. It does not define me as a person. People put too much thought into what they cannot change. Story 219. I understand why the term is cracker, but I like the way one person put it. White people without tattoos look like buttered noodles. I've never felt so understood. Story 220. I am less concerned about my skin color than about my skin's complexion. I feel relatively comfortable with my skin color. I am Asian and live in Europe. I do not experience colorism here, so all is good. Story 221. I was very pale and grew up in Florida with many sunburns. I now have a blood cancer related to a genetic mutation caused by radiation exposure. My skin color did not help. Use sunscreen, everyone. Story 222. I love it. I'm just not sure whether to choose cinnamon, mocha, or roasted caramel. Story 223. I love it. It is a beautiful caramel color, and I take very good care of it. Story 224. I'm extremely pale and cool-toned on my body, with blue undertones. My face is naturally ruddy. Finding pale enough makeup is hard because many products lean yellow. I have to do a lot of color correction to make my makeup look right, which is annoying. Story 225. I love it, although it throws me off since I'm a different shade depending on the season, and it doesn't feel that common compared to other skin tones. I often imagine myself darker or lighter than I am. Story 226. As long as I avoid the sun, I enjoy a pale complexion with freckles. With a little sun or a heavy workout, I turn bright red, like a tomato or a lobster. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.